Hi, a very good morning to all of you, and also a warm welcome to all of viewers who have joined us on the show. Welcome to our YouTube channel Skepta. I'm your host, Dr. Mani Iyer. Before we start, I request everyone to please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share this video with all your friends. All right, let's begin. Um, think of the friend who always rescues everyone until they explode about how nobody appreciates them. The sibling who is always the victim at family functions. The manager who overhelps a struggling employee, then quietly resents them for it. These aren't random personality quirks. There's, they are roles in a very specific, very well studied pattern that repeats in almost every family, friendship, workplace, and so once you can see it, you can't unsee it. Today we are mapping out the drama triangle and more importantly, how to get off it. So, to talk about this, we are joined by Miss Medhavi Sati, who is a renowned psychologist, counseling psychologist, and behavioral therapist. Medhavi, welcome back to the show. And I have a feeling a lot of listeners are going to recognize themselves or someone very specific in their life in today's episode. Join, so please join me in welcoming Medhavi back. Medhavi, over to you.
Thank you for having me. And I actually think this is one of the most useful frameworks I know because once you see it, it becomes almost impossible, to get pulled into pointless conflict the same way again.
So,
So,
for any first time listeners, give us the quick version of your background.
sure. I hold an MPhil in Rehabilitation Psychology, recognized by Rehabilitation Council of India. I have worked across various government and clinical settings, including the CRC Lucknow and government hospitals in Uttarakhand. And I see this exact pattern constantly in couples work, in family sessions, and honestly, in my own life too, which is part of why I find it so fascinating.
Yes. So, even psychology get pulled into it, isn't it?
Yes, especially psychologists, knowing, the theory doesn't make you immune. It just means you notices it faster than you are already in it.
Okay. So let's go to we move into the next segment of our program. What is the drama triangle? So let's start from the beginning. What exactly is the drama triangle?
The drama triangle, it was, mapped out in 1968 by a psychiatrist named Stephen Karpman. And it describes a pattern that shows up in almost every recurring conflict. The idea is that in conflict, people tend to unconsciously slip into one of the three roles: the victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor. And once someone's in a role, the conflict tends to, keep going because the roles feed each other.
Why did you call it the triangle specifically?
Because you can draw it as one. There are 3 points, three roles, and people move between the points during a single conflict, sometimes within minutes. So nobody is stuck in one corner forever. That movement is actually the most important part of the whole model.
So where does the show up? Is this a therapy only concept or is it really as common as you're suggesting?
It is genuinely everywhere, in family arguments, in romantic relationships, friendships, office politics, even how the news covers a story. Anywhere there is a recurring conflict that never quite resolves, there is strong chance a version of this triangle is running underneath it.
Okay, so let's move to the next segment of our program, the three roles explained. So let's break it down. Each role start with the victim.
The victim, its role isn't about someone who is genuinely being harmed. That's a real separate thing. And I want to be careful about that distinction. The victim role in this model is a stance. This, this always happened to me. There's nothing I can do. Someone needs to save me. It's a posture of powerlessness, whether or not the situation actually is unsolvable. For example, at every family dinner, a girl's named Priya, whose brother Rohan, brings up how unfair his job situation is, how his boss is impossible, how nothing ever works out for him. And somehow, every single time, the entire table ends up managing his mood for the rest of the evening without him ever actually applying for a new job.
And the rescuer?
The rescuer, jumps in to fix, help, or save him or the victim out of the position, often without being asked, and often at real cost to themselves. It looks generous on the surface, but it usually comes from a need to be needed, not purely from generosity. Example, every time Rohan complains at dinner, his sister Priya immediately starts problem solving, offering to talk to his boss, contact, drafting a resignation email idea, staying up late researching job openings for him. Rohan never asked her to do any of this. She does it anyway, and afterward feels quietly exhausted and unappreciated.
And the third role, the persecutor?
The persecutor blames, criticizes, or controls. You know, this is your fault. You need to change it. Why can't you just fix it yourself? It can look like, straightforward anger, but underneath it's often frustration that's, built up from one of the other two roles. For example, 3 weeks later, after months of rescuing, Rohan, Priya finally snaps. I'm so tired of hearing about your job. Do something about it instead of complaining every single dinner. In that moment, Priya has moved from rescuer straight into persecutor. Same underlying frustration, but new role.
Okay, so we move to the next segment, segment 4, why the roles rotate. So that last example is fascinating. The same person moved from rescuer to persecutor. Talk us through that.
This is honestly, the most important and most surprising part of the whole model. Nobody stays in one role. The role rotate, often within a single conversation. Priya rescues Rohan for months, quietly, building resentment until she finally snaps into persecutor. And what happens next?
I'm guessing Rohan doesn't just accept that.
Exactly. The moment Priya criticizes him, Rohan slides straight into victim. Wow, I can't believe you would say that one to me. I thought you were the one person who understood me. Now Priya, seeing him hurt, may swing back into rescuer, apologizing, softening, trying to repair, and the whole loop starts again, sometimes within the same 5 minute conversation. For example, picture a couple, Aisha and Farhan. Farhan forgets an important errand. Aisha snaps at him. Persecutor. Farhan goes quiet and says, I can never do anything right for you, playing the victim. Aisha, feeling guilty, softens and says, no, no, it's fine. I'll just handle it myself, playing the rescuer. Three roles, one conversation, about 4 minutes.
Okay, so the triangle isn't really about who's the villain, it's about the shape of the whole interaction.
Exactly, right. That's why blaming any one person for being the difficult one usually, misses the point. Everyone in the long running triangle is playing a part. including the people who seem the most reasonable.
Okay, let's move into the segment 5 of our program, the triangle at family gatherings. So let's zoom into specific settings, starting with families. This feels like it shows up hardest at family gatherings.
Family systems are actually one of the clearest pictures or places to see this because the roles often get assigned early and repeat for decades. There's frequently a family victim whose crisis everyone rallies around, a family rescuer who smooths every conflict, and whoever ends up being cast as the difficult one during a disagreement. Example: at every extended family wedding, one aunt always ends up in tears about being excluded from the planning. Several cousins rush to comfort and include her. And by the end of the event, someone else, often, whoever pushed back on her complaints even mildly, is quietly labeled as having caused a scene. This exact sequence has repeated at nearly every family event for years, with the roles barely changing.
So, do families ever consciously realize that this is happening?
Rarely, in the moment, they rarely recognize it. It feels like it's just how family is. But once one person in the system learns to recognize the pattern, they start they can start responding differently, even if nobody else in the family knows the theory at all.
Okay, so let's move to the next segment, segment 6, the triangle in romantic relationships. So, what about romantic relationships specifically?
This is where the rescuer role gets particularly interesting because it's so easy to mistake for love. Someone who manages their partner's mood, fixes their problems, and constantly smooths things over can look like they are being deeply caring. And partly they are. But if it's one directional and unacknowledged for long enough, resentment builds underneath in almost every time. Example: a girl named Sana, has spent years managing her partner's Vivek's finances, handling his family conflicts for him, and making excuses to friends when he cancels plans last minute. She tells herself this is just what love looks like. 2 years in, she finds herself suddenly furious over something small. Dishes left in the sink, and Vivek is confused about why she is reacting so strongly to just the dishes. She isn't. She is reacting to 2 years of uncompensated rescuing finally reaching its limit.
So, the small trigger is rarely the real issue.
Almost never. The dishes are never really about the dishes, they are the final straw on a much longer rescuing pattern that was never named or addressed.
Okay, so the triangle at work, we move to the next segment, segment 7. And in the workplace, I imagine this shows up in office politics constantly.
Constantly, and it's often less visible because it's dressed up in professional language. A manager who repeatedly does the struggling employees' work for them rather than coaching them through it is rescuing, and it often quietly breeds resentment on both the sides. Example: a team lead, Aditya, keeps quietly redoing a junior colleague's report rather than giving direct feedback because he doesn't want to seem harsh. 6 months later, in a performance review, his frustration boils and he criticizes the colleague sharply for never improving, despite Aditya himself never having given honest feedback along the way. The colleague, blindsided, feels like the ground shifted under them for no reason.
Oh, that's such a common workplace story. The sudden blow up that seems to come out of nowhere.
It almost never actually comes out of nowhere. There's nearly always a rescuing pattern quietly building underneath it for months beforehand.
Okay, let's see. Let's move to the next segment, getting off the triangle, the empowerment dynamic. So we can all see the pattern now. How do people actually get out of it?
There's a well-known alternative model that I really like, which is developed by David Emerald called the empowerment dynamic. It is essentially the model which offers a healthier counterpart to each of the three roles.
Let's go through them. What replaces the victim?
The creator, instead of, this always happens to me, there's nothing I can do, the creator stance asks, what's one thing within my control here? It doesn't deny really, difficulty. It just refuses to stay stuck in powerlessness.
And instead of the rescuer,
The coach. A coach supports someone without taking over, asking, what do you think you should do? Instead of just doing it for them. It respects the other person's capability instead of quietly assuming they can't manage without help.
and the persecutor,
The challenger. Instead of the blame, this is your fault, fix it yourself. A challenger holds a high, honest standard with respect. I believe you're capable of more than this, and here is specifically what needs to change. Same honesty as a persecutor, none of the contempt. For example, let's rewrite Priya and Rohan's dinner table pattern. Instead of rescuing every complaint, Priya tries coaching. That sounds really frustrating. What do you think your options are? And instead of exploding into persecutor months later, she could shift earlier into challenger. You know, I care about you and I think you're capable of changing this, but I can't keep carrying the worry for you. Rohan, instead of sliding into victim, is gently invited into creator, being asked what he can actually do rather than being rescued or blamed.
that's such a concrete before and after.
That's
So,
exactly the value of this model. It's not just stop doing the bad thing. It gives you an, actual alternative sentence to reach for in the moment, which is what makes it usable in real conversations, not just in theory.
okay, so let's move to the next segment, catching yourself in real time. So, how does somebody actually catch themselves in the moment, mid conflict, rather than realizing it afterward?
A simple check. Notice the sentence you are about to say. There is nothing I can do. That's victim language. Let me just handle it for you. Rescuer language, especially if nobody asked. This is your fault, or why can't you just, you know, persecutor language? Just noticing the pattern in your own sentence mid conversation is often enough to pause and choose something else. For example, Kabir notices himself about to say, fine, I'll just do it myself, to his teenage daughter about her messy room. Classic rescuer, dressed up, as exasperation. He catches it, pauses, and instead asks, what's your plan for getting this done by the weekend? A small swap, but it changes the entire interaction from rescuing to coaching.
So, it really can be that smaller shift.
It really can. You don't need a big dramatic conversation about the drama triangle with your family. You just need to catch your own sentence one at a time and reach for a different one.
Okay, let's move to the next segment, which is a rapid fire round. Quick rapid fire before we close. Can someone be different role in different relationships?
Absolutely. Someone might be the family rescuer, but the workplace victim, depending entirely on the specific relationship and history.
Is it possible to be all three roles with the same person?
Very common. Actually, often within the same conversation, exactly like the Aisha and Farhan example earlier.
Does recognizing the triangle alone change anything, even without doing the empowerment dynamic work?
It genuinely helps, quite a bit on its own. Simply noticing, oh, I am in the triangle right now, creates a small but real pause, and that pause is often enough to choose differently.
One resource you would recommend?
There's this David Amrell's short book, The Power of TED, The Empowerment Dynamic. It is written almost like a parable, very easy to read, and it's the best practical, next step for anyone who wants to go deeper after today.
Okay, so Medhavi, just before we wrap up, any final thoughts?
Just this, if you, spend this episode thinking of a specific person you always seem to clash with, I would gently invite you to also ask what role you tend to play in that pattern. It's very rarely just one person is doing. And the good news is you don't need the other person to know any of this theory for you to change your own part in it. One different sentence at a time is genuinely enough to shift the whole shape of interaction.
Oh, that's such a very helpful and hopeful place to end. Thank you so much, Medhavi ji. It was very nice talking to you, and you have brought this excellent, what do we call the drama triangle in day-to-day life, the rescue victim and the villain, and how to overcome it and change it into the other three. So it was very mind-blowing and eye-opening kind of a conversation. And within seconds you can change from one role to the other. So really great stuff, and also very simple stuff. Thank you very much for this great show, and looking forward to other shows like this. So thank you so much, Medhaviji, and we will soon catch up on another show.
Thank you for having me. This was such a fun one to talk through.
Also, thanks to all our viewers who have been listening patiently. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you another next time. Thank you so much to one and all. Thank you, Ji. Bye bye.